Hello everybody, welcome back to Auto Anorak, and welcome to the first of many YouTuber showcases on Auto Anorak. We're going to be going in depth on some of the most iconic cars owned by YouTubers in the car community, so stay tuned to the series because we have some incredibly in-depth Stradman videos coming up on his car collection. And of course, these videos take a lot of time to make, so if you appreciate them, I would really appreciate it if you subscribe. That's all I ask. Anyway, let's get into it. Stradman's Lamborghini Gallardo. To me, and many other Strad fans, his 2006 Lamborghini Gallardo is the single most iconic car on his YouTube channel. It was his first supercar, first Lamborghini, the car he's owned the longest, and the only one he has said he will never sell. It takes a lot for a car to have an impression on someone like that, and so why does he love it so much, and why would he sell his 1000 horsepower Bugatti Veyron before selling the Gallardo if forced to only keep one car? Let's get in-depth, extremely nerdy, and very nostalgic in this very first supercar showcase. As a kid, James always dreamed of owning a Ferrari 360 Challenge Stradale, hence the name Stradman. This was the raw, hardcore, mid-engined V8 Ferrari at the time. He worked hard and gained experience in the accounting world in order to hopefully one day own a car like the Stradale, but that didn't happen. When it came to buy his first supercar, the Stradale was far beyond his price range of around $100,000, and so he needed to get the next best thing. James looked at the Aston Martin V8 Vantage and Audi R8, but settled his sights on the Lamborghini Gallardo. It was the rawest of the bunch, with a rampant V10 soundtrack, 6-speed manual gearbox, and an equally visceral exterior designed to match. It was the perfect contender for the Stradale, sort of like a brother from another mother. Some will of course mention that the Superleggera is the worthy brother, but Lamborghinis are always a tad more unhinged than Ferraris, even in basic form. Why not a 360 Modena then? I'm going to guess that he wanted to wait to get the proper full-fat, no-frills Challenge Stradale, and that he also had grown to love the Lamborghini brand throughout the years of his car spotting. The specification he went with is a classically childish Lamborghini spec. As Lamborghini themselves say, Gallard is never a random choice. And James's Arancio Borealis paint certainly doesn't seem to have been a random choice either. It's a classic Gallardo spec that lends itself well to the Lambo's refined yet incredibly energized design. Fun fact, the Gallardo was designed by a bloke called Luc Donkervolk, while also having one of the sexiest names in the automotive industry. He also designed the Murcielago Diablo VT 2001 refresh, Bentley Flying Spur, and the Skoda Octavia. So if you happen to own an Octavia, you can now drive it with the knowledge that there's at least some Lamborghini bloodline somewhere deep in there. Deep in there. The car came stock with Lamborghini's Callisto wheels. James was fond of these and kept them on the car despite having a wrap and ski-box in the car for a few years. These were very desirable wheels in the Gallardo and continued to be fitted to the LP Gallardos after the LP 560 update 6 or so years after the Gallardo's release and up until 2013. That's a long lifespan for a wheel since the Gallardo actually got launched in the US in 2004, rest of the world 2003. We'll not get into technicalities. Interiors in these Gallardos are seen as incredibly boring to many, especially compared to Lambos of today with their fighter jet switches and forged carbon fiber hexagonal air vents. The Gallardo came with none of this. The air vents could be out of a Ford Fiesta and we would never know. The steering wheel is nothing like as complicated as the 430s of the same time period, and Strad's interior contains no carbon fiber. It's simple with black leather and orange stitching. A notable advantage of his car over the 2004 models up to 2006 is the Lamborghini Bullcrest on the steering wheel. Before 2006, the Gallardos had incredibly drab wheels with very plain Lamborghini badges. 2006 cars were tightened up a bit and refined in almost every way and still came with the same infotainment systems as the Audi A6s and A8s of that era. These units are now out of touch. 2006 cars also came with more than just a Lamborghini badge. Their gearbox ratios were shortened in an attempt to make the cars accelerate faster, and horsepower was upped from 500 to 520. All of these things combined makes the 2006 cars much more enjoyable and engaging to drive since you're shifting gears more often, and boy would we like to shift gears in one of these things. The 6-speed gated manual gearbox is not only a joy to look at, but also to listen to. cars were state of the art back in the day, but are now deemed too clunky and temperamental. That's before you even get into the clutch life, which is way worse for e-gear cars that eat through clutch sleeve cylinders much faster. The clutch job costs around $11,000 and is a repair that James has, definitely reluctantly had to have done to his car at around 30,000 miles. If you're wondering about the other running costs of this car, it has cost him roughly $10,000 to run each year. That includes a changed set of tires that were $2,600, the clutch at $11,232, routine maintenance at over $3,000 a year, and insurance at $148 per month. My estimate of $10,000 is based on an average of his 36-month cost of ownership. Insurance will obviously vary on place, person, and insurance provider. Fuel prices will also vary, but expect MPG to be about 3 times worse than your average city car. Depreciation is another factor to take into account, but if you're buying a car with over 30,000 miles and are only driving the car for 5,000 miles every year, you shouldn't expect more than $2,000 in appreciation each year for an 06 manual Gallardo. If anything, these cars are going up. Next comes the fun stuff. James's car mods have always been controversial, and he certainly started that trend with a bang from the get-go. You'll know that his mods are pretty controversial if you've watched this channel before. Since he loves to travel and go camping, James decided to fit a ski-box to his Gallardo. This had actually been done before by John Olsen and would have been Strad's inspiration for the idea. It made sense as in Utah, skiing is a huge part of life, and at winter it would allow him to take his all-wheel drive Gallardo up the mountain pass to the slopes and carry his skis with him, just like John had done in the years prior with his camo Gallardo. James didn't stop there though. Instead of waiting to ski when he got to the slopes, he decided to ski behind the car on snow-ridden roads themselves. Sort of an overly expensive and more risky version of water skiing. We all adored that content. It was the stuff that we had never seen before, and the fact that he was doing it with his $110,000 Lamborghini really set James apart from the rest, especially when you consider that he could barely afford the payments in the car, and that if he crashed it, he would have crashed all of his life savings at the same time. Little did we know that after his suction cup mounted roof rack was fitted, we would get to see the most iconic mod yet, the almighty satin purple chrome wrap to end all supercar wraps. James had always wanted a purple Lamborghini since his sighting of a Viola SE30 Lamborghini Diablo Iota SE30 many years prior. The car left quite the impact upon him, but up until that point there had never been any Lamborghinis painted in such a colour from factory. That's why he wrapped his purple, and of course due to the song Purple Lamborghini. Subsequently, Lamborghini have released many purple shades for their cars in light of that song's release. Before the Snowball Rally, the satin purple chrome wrap was also given a sprinkling of Arctic camo. It wouldn't be the worst guess that his inspiration for this, again, came from John Olsen. Olsen had a similar camo wrap in his Gallardo, although it was grey underneath opposed to the bright purple. You can't exactly say the cars were copycats of one another. Up until recently, the Gallardo hasn't had many performance mods. The first performance mod technically was when he disconnected some vacuum lines at the end of the Gallardo, put some $2.99 caps on them to seal them up. This inexpensive mod made a significant difference to the Gallardo's sound, but it was nothing like the exhaust he got many months after. Before that though, let's talk about the wheels. Quite obviously he loved those desirable Callisto wheels, and he kept them on the car for many years. He considered changing them to black after much pressure from fans, and yet couldn't be swayed until long after the camo purple wrap and roof rack were gone. Eventually, he switched to the $1,200 a pop tinted brushed aluminium 305 forged FT101 wheels, if we want to get specific. These suit the look of the car incredibly well, especially with the Gallardo's lowered stance, courtesy of Eibach springs. To match those new wheels, he set them off nicely with a Superleggera carbon wing, because you can never have too much carbon. Next is a modification that I think you'll all be interested in, his custom high-tech exotic X-Pipe exhaust system, which cost around $8,997.01 more than his previous exhaust modification, but it was certainly worth it. Not only did the custom titanium exhaust system look the business, it also let some of the Raging Bulls scream that were locked away by the car's prior restrictive exhaust. By far the coolest thing about this exhaust is that it was donated by Aaron from Life of Apollos. The deal was that if Strad's shoutout could get him to 40,000 subscribers on YouTube, then he had to buy James a straight pipe system for the Gallardo. Quite obviously that happened, and since then, Aaron has flourished into the world of automotive supercar news from the interwebs, arguably the best beard as well. When the shout out happened, Aaron was really just experimenting with different ideas, like asking people about their thoughts on his AMG GTS and giving people rides in supercars. It was a very different time in YouTube. For years following this, the Gallardo became almost like an ornament in the background of his vids. The viewer's attention was quite obviously more drawn to his off-roading escapades in his R8, the insanity of his Aventador, and the absurdity of his SEMA build Supra. Despite this, James hasn't forgotten about his beloved Gallardo. It is, after all, the only car he said he'd hold on to forever. Not long after he originally bought the car, he was talking about potential upgrades in a video, and he mentioned the possibility of an underground racing twin turbo kit. He also mentioned that this would probably never be on the cards, most likely due to the $100,000 to $200,000 bill he'd received from Underground for the service. Since then, times have changed and options for turbo kits have entered the $40,000 range. Therefore, James has been able to achieve his dreams and get the folks at B-Rogue built to make him a kit. Unfortunately, it has been delayed due to the current world circumstances, I'm sure you can imagine, but expect a smidge over 700 horsepower to the wheels and a whole lot of turbo noises. That's the real reason why he wants it, for that dramatic sound. It's going to be something totally unique, bar choosing Gallardo from Royalty Exotics, but we never got to see that anyway. And the added turbo flutters will be a welcome addition to James's already insane vlogs. That's it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I put a lot of work into these videos, so consider subscribing. Definitely try and share this to James. That would be so cool. And let us know if you want to see even more content on Stradman's cars in the future. Have a great day, everybody.